type of Tilden here is, other than he's coming in like a rocket. But he is the most common hawk that we have here in North America. Any ideas?
Red tail.
Absolutely right, a red-tailed hawk. These birds are found all over North America, actually. And so they live in a whole variety, as you can imagine, of habitats, encompassing everything from the forest to the plains and even down a little bit into the desert. In fact, in doing so, they have to be able to camouflage and blend in with all those different habitats, right? So for that reason, they come with basically in what we call 14, we have to keep that back area clear, please, thank you. 14 different color morphs. And we're looking at the common one here in the southeast, so in Georgia. So if you're not from here, you're saying, that doesn't look like any red-tailed hawk I've ever seen, right? Well, it very well may not be. It could be that your red-tailed hawks, if you are from the northern Great Plains, yours could be almost completely white, right? They're what we call a Crider's red tail. We also, if you're from farther out west, they may have this dark Hershey's chocolate brown coloration on the chest, right? Which is really cool. In fact, scientists thought, because there were so many different colors of this bird on the body, basically, that they were all different subspecies, but they're not. They're all red-tailed hawks. But while it's the most common bird, and it lives in a whole variety of habitats, it is also the most commonly misidentified bird as well, because red-tailed hawks, and you may not know this, but red-tailed hawks do not get that brick red tail until they are in their second molt. So basically they're 2 years old. So if you ever see a bird and you're like, man, that looks like a red-tailed hawk, but it doesn't have a red tail, it could be a juvenile. The juveniles have a dark brown and black banded tail, and it's about 2 inches longer, too, for added maneuverability for the young birds, kind of like training wheels, if you think about it. And they won't get that brick red tail until their second molt. But a little bit about red-tailed hawks. Since they live in a whole variety of habitats, they are what we call a generalist species. They will eat generally anything that they can get those feet onto, right? Or those talons into. So usually that's mammals and snakes and maybe other birds and the like. But you may also, unfortunately, know these guys by a rather unfortunate nickname. But before I tell you what that is, and Tilden's going to do a little go up to the top of the mew there and get to where he wants to eat, behind the shrubbery there. You may know these birds by another nickname. You ever heard of a chicken hawk? All right, well, I'm here to tell you, there is no raptor in the world whose ecological job for our environment is to go out and plow down all the chickens. That's just not the whole reason they're there right now. I'll be sitting here telling you Fibberooski if there was never a red-tailed hawk that ate a chicken, though, right? Would you eat a chicken? I eat a chicken. It's a hard day in the life to be a chicken. But usually when these birds are around these agricultural fields, around these farms, they're not there for the chicken. They're there for the mice, right, that are attracted to the grain, the snakes that eat the mice, and things like that. But they could take a chicken if they needed to. But that's a big deal for this bird. How much do y'all think this bird weighs? Just show me out some numbers.
5 pounds.
5 pounds.
7.
2 pounds. 30. Now, I ate my Wheaties this morning, but when I was holding Tilden, I'm not super strong like that. You're absolutely right. Tilden, on a good day, is about 2.5 pounds. So think of a chicken, right? A chicken is going to be a lot heavier than that. Everybody here, I guarantee you, has heard a red-tailed hawk call, even though you may not know that you have. Now, a lot of times, unfortunately, it is attributed to our national symbol, which is a little sad. You know when you're watching a movie and that bald eagle soars out over the king and he gives that majestic, yeah, and it just reverberates over the water, right? Guess what? That's not a bald eagle call. Hollywood dubs over the bald eagle call, which sounds a little wimpy, I'm not going to lie, and inserts the red-tailed hawk call because they think it sounds more majestic, which is kind of cool. So everybody here probably knows what a red-tailed hawk sounds like, and you had no idea, though. But Tilden here is with us because he is an example of a physical injury. The laws heavily protect these birds. Raptors, you can't even own a feather of them without permits. Talon, a beak, any part of it, without facing a hefty fine. And so these birds are heavily federally protected because of the job they do for our environment. But while I tell you all Tilden is with us, have you enjoyed him? Yeah. Thank you, Tilden. So the government says that if these birds are perfectly healthy in body and in mind, then they should be out in nature doing their ecological job, doing their ecological duty, eating those mice and things that can make us as humans sick, right? Well, that's exactly how the law states. So these birds, there's something wrong with them, right? There's some reason that they cannot be out in the wild. They can't survive. Remember how Herschel had a little bit of a collision, right? Where he's an example of a physical injury. Tilden is also an example of a physical injury. Remember how we were talking about chicken hawks, right? Well, Tilden was hanging around a chicken farm, and the farmer didn't like it too much, and so he took matters in his own hand and he shot him. He shot Tilden and he left him. Luckily, somebody rode by, saw Tilden, was able to take him to a birdie hospital where he was rehabilitated. But he does still have residual damage to that wing where he was shot. And so after he gets tired and he's been working a lot for us, he'll kind of droop that wing on that side a little bit. So, of course, if you're a top predator like that and you're not at the peak physical condition, you're going to get out-competed. You're not going to be able to do the job effectively out in the wild. So Tilden is with us as well for a physical injury. But how in the world can a bird have a mental injury? Well, hold that thought, because the next bird that we're going to welcome out has a mental injury. But since we've already seen a hawk and a small horned owl, basically the eastern screech owl, we're going to now welcome down the largest horned owl species in the southeast, the third largest owl species on our entire continent of North America. Any ideas what type of bird this is? Great horned owl, absolutely. And this is Cedar. He is our male great horned owl, and he is with us because of, well, a bit of a mental condition. But before I tell you about that, let's talk about great horned owls, because they are amazing birds. They get their name because they are a great bird in size, right? And they get the horned name from, well, it looks like those horns sticking up on top of the head. Now, we know those are from Herschel. We know those are not the ears, right? Those are just feathers, nothing more, nothing less. Because owl ears are exactly where our ears are, on the sides of our heads, right? We just cannot see cedars because they're covered up by feathers. So great horned owl, big owl with these horn-looking things on his head, right? And they are also known as the tigers of the sky, because once great horned owls are at an adult size, like Cedar is here, there are very few natural predators, if any at all. In fact, great horned owls are the only known natural predators of bald eagles and peregrine falcons. You heard me, of bald eagles and peregrine falcons. Now, they're not going to chase down a bald eagle up in the sky and take it, but they will absolutely chase a nesting pair off of the nest, feast on the nest, and take over the nest, kind of evicting the current tenants, right? Now, I don't want you to think this is a demonized bird because it goes after our national symbol. This happens in nature all the time. You just very rarely would think that a bird this size would be able to go after and out-compete, basically, on its nest, a bald eagle. But usually what these birds will eat is anything that they can get those talons into, because you are looking at the nighttime counterpart of Tilden. Remember, Tilden was a red-tailed hawk. The exact job he does in our ecosystem, Cedar here and other great horned owls do at night. They take over where Tilden leaves off. Let's get you back up here, Cedar. He's like, do you have any food for me? Tricked ya. He's like, yeah, we'll see about that. But these guys regularly eat armadillos, raccoons, and even skunks. Now, why don't we like skunks? Just tell me. Oh, they're stinky. Man, they're stinky from about the age of, 8 days, right? But guess what? Cedar don't give a hoot. In fact, Cedar here and other birds, not just birds of prey, but most all birds have no sense of smell, which might go against something that we were taught. You know, don't pick up a baby bird, put it back in the nest because mama won't come back to you. It'll smell you on it. Not true. Besides your turkey vultures and a few shorebirds, birds cannot smell. They have a worse sense of smell than us. So Cedar here is chowing down on that skunk in the middle of the woods. All the other animals are running, going, man, is it stinky. And Cedar's going, this is delicious. What's wrong with everybody? I don't know what's going on. But great horned owls are obviously, well, an owl. And so let's talk a little bit about owls. When we look at great horned owls, we notice they have big, huge, beautiful yellow eyes, right? But did you know when you're looking at an owl, you are looking at the small part of that owl eye? That is because owls do not have round eyes like we as humans do, right? The color's eyeballs, like a golf ball or a baseball. Not so with owls. Owls actually have eyes that are shaped like mushrooms, right? Or light bulbs, something like that. And you're looking at the screw-in part of the light bulb or the stalk of the mushroom. Cedar's eyes are twice as big back in his skull. They take up to 50% of his skull space, actually. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, if we had eyes as large as Cedar here, they would be the size of grapefruits and weigh, about 5 pounds apiece. How awesome would we look with big googly eyes? And we could see in the dark. But I think Cedar here has done a lovely job. Have you guys enjoyed your great horned owl? Thank you, Cedar. Cedar thinks about maybe going home for us. We were talking about the eyes of the owl, but guess what? That's not the primary sense. That's not the organ that they use for hunting primarily. Hawks that we saw earlier, right, like Tilden, vision is primary. That is key for these diurnal, these daytime birds of prey. For our nocturnal birds of prey, like our owls, they rely on hearing. That is their primary sense. So even with those huge eyes, that is not the primary sense with which Cedar uses to hunt. Owls have crooked ears, by the way. Now remember I told you they're on the sides of the head, just ear down here. This one's pointed down, this one's pointed up slightly. One of them is tuned into completely different frequencies than the other and receives sound a 30th of a second faster than the other ear. How amazing is that? Now why would you want crooked ears? That doesn't make sense, right? Well, think about this. It has to do with pinpointing by triangulation, right? So you have 1 point, and then the prey item moving around, that's your third point. Well, when you have a squeaky toy at home and you go, ee, 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 what's your little dog going to do with his head if you have a dog? He's going to go, burr, burr. He's turning that head sideways, right? He's offsetting those ears, doing what owls do naturally, maybe by having them at slightly different levels. You can tell which direction it's coming from. Is it coming above me? Is it coming below me? If I turn my head this way, then the sound is going to reach this ear a little bit faster. They can gauge the distance. When Cedar was flying right over your heads, he could hear the air whooshing in and out of your lungs as you breathe. As he was on my glove up here, he could hear the first 2 rows of your heart beating. Yeah, isn't that amazing? He could be sitting on a tree 40, 50 feet up in the air, right, looking over a snow-covered field. There could be a mouse running around up to under 2 feet of snow, right? 2 feet of snow. Cedar could fly over that field, punch through that snow, and pull that mouse out without ever laying eyes on it, simply by hearing alone. Isn't that amazing? Phenomenal birds. Well, Cedar did exactly what Tilden did at night, right? So Tilden was out during the day eating all kinds of things all over North America, across our continent. Well, Cedar and great horned owls covered the same range, just in a different shift. Well, now we're going to go and talk about another diurnal bird, but a bird that is not native to this area at all. In fact, if you see Roman in Callaway Gardens, please give us a call, because that means we've lost him. There should never be another Harris's hawk like Roman in Callaway Gardens, because these birds are native to our arid southwest. So think Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, right? And I'll go ahead and warn you, Roman loves to fly. Now what he's doing right here is he's going up and he's saying hello to one of our other hawks. And well, this is kind of neat, because Harris's hawks like Roman are social hawks. Now this is unusual. Hawks are usually what we call solitary. They live alone, they hunt alone, they roost alone. The only time you would see them is when they're trying to have a family. Not so with Harris's hawks. Harris's hawks are social hawks. But let's see if we can get Roman on down here to do his job. He is at work. And he's like, I'll go over your head. He looked up and saw something. Oh, what's that soaring out there? All right. And he is quite the aerial acrobat. But these Harris's hawks are basically a desert hawk. They have this dark coloration, which is indicative of being out west. Remember how we talked about even with our red-tailed hawks, how they have a dark color on their bodies. Well, that's what you see with Roman here. And he also has an extremely long tail, which adds to his incredible agility in the air. Because if you're an open country hawk, like a desert hawk would be, a Harris's hawk like Roman, then you have to make quick maneuvers, because your player is going to make very quick, evasive maneuvers, right? Well, absolutely. So, no, thank you, buddy. He's like, I'm coming to you anyways. And he is really, really neat. But now a little bit about this cooperative lifestyle these birds have, because like I said, it is so incredibly unique. They have been dubbed because of this hunting style, the way they hunt together, the airwolves of the sky, because of their cooperative hunting style. What they'll do is they'll be in a family group, right? Maybe 5 to 7 birds. Usually 7's the max. It can contain immature birds as well as mature birds. And so what they'll do is they'll see a prey item that is a little large for just a single hawk to take. So think like a jackrabbit or something like that, right? So the jackrabbit's going to be running across the open country. Well, they're going to take turns pursuing it, trying to tire it out, And what's that jackrabbit going to run for? Cover, right? It's going to run for a bush, something like that. And so, when it runs to the bush, they're not to be deterred. What they'll do is they'll perch up around it, send one of their own in after it. Yes, they send a hawk down onto the ground to crawl into the bush with the rabbit. And when that rabbit comes shooting out the other side, the whole family's waiting on it to share in the meal. How cool is that? For this reason, they've been dubbed the wolves of the sky or air wolves. So if you ever hear somebody referring to that, you know they're talking about a Harris's hawk, like Roman here. But have you ever heard the term eyes like a hawk? It means you have excellent vision. And I mentioned something a little bit about 8 times better than ours. Well, they have 8 times the clarity. They can see with 8 times the clarity that we can. Their brains can literally process images 4 times faster than our own do. So what does that mean? What that means is if Roman here were to look at a hummingbird, what he would see would be a little jelly bean of a bird and each individual wing beat of that hummingbird. Isn't that amazing? Or if he were watching a television show, like our TV shows are, he would see the individual slides, the still frames that actually make up our TV shows. Now, our brains can't process images that fast, so it looks like a moving picture to us, right? Not so to Roman. But I think Roman's trying to tell me something. Y'all want to see him do something cool? Yeah. Come on, Roman. All right, keep your eye on him. All right, good job, buddy. I think he deserves a round of applause. It's hard getting watching your toenails. Let me know if you tried it. I haven't. I don't know what you're talking about. But Roman did a great job there. Shows that excellent coordination and timing that they have due to this ability to see so much quicker. Now that would be a very easy meal for this bird. There's no prey item anywhere in the world that I'm aware of that willingly lobs itself directly into the talons of a predator. But it is kind of a cool way to demonstrate that amazing eyesight. Now these birds are also known as bay-winged hawks, well, named quite creatively after the coloration on the wings there, but they were named Harris's hawks by John James Audubon after his friend Edward Harris. So how cool would it be to have a hawk named after you? I think that'd be pretty neat. But these guys do one more really kind of cool cooperative behavior, and it's known as stacking. And at the end, you will have, well, a literal stack of Harris's hawks. Now, here's what happens. What they'll do is they'll be out in the desert, right? And one bird will find a perch. What's a good perch out in the desert? Yeah, a cactus. I mean, usually like a saguaro cactus. Those ones look like a person standing there going, score! And so they'll perch up on top there, right? Well, then guess what the next bird's going to do? He perches right on the top of the back of the other one, and then another one, and you will literally have a totem pole of Harris's hawks. Now, why in the world do these birds do this? Come on, Roman, let's get you on down here to send you home. Y'all have any ideas why stacking happens? Have y'all enjoyed Roman? Yeah. Thank you, Roman. Well, guess what, guys? You're in good company, because the scientists have no idea either. They have absolutely no idea why these birds like to stand on each other's backs out in the desert. Now, some of the ideas I think I could have come up with, like, well, hey, the higher up they are, the better the vantage point. Maybe they look bigger to predators. If the birds on top spread out their wings, they're shading the birds below them. These all seem very viable to me. Probably my favorite is it's a hierarchical thing. And depending on which camp you're in, it could either be the dominant bird is the bird with the sure, steady footing on top of the cactus. But my personal favorite is if you're the one that let the jackrabbit get away that day for the family, you're the one standing with the spines digging into your feet and your hefty Aunt Hannah's talons digging into your back. That is my favorite. But really, they have no idea. Harris's hawks are really neat, though. Well, we talked a lot about their biology and things like that, but how in the world can we help these birds out? How can we encourage them to be here for future generations, for these little ones that I see out here? Guys, it could be something simple. It could be leaving a brush pile along the edge of your yard, right? Now, they just look like a pile of sticks and leaves to us, but that's literally a hotel for all kinds of raptor food. Everything from your lizards to your little mice and things like that. Not uncommon at all to see a bird perched up in a tree looking down at a brush pile waiting for something nice and juicy to come running out. You can also hold on to that trash, that McDonald's hamburger or whatever you're eating that you're not wanting to finish. Please, hopefully none of us throw out styrofoam or paper or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about, but the actual biodegradable food, apple cores, banana peels, orange rinds, things like that. If you just hold on to those and wait till you get home, put them in your own trash, you can save a life. Every day, hundreds of raptors are struck along our roadways, feeding along our roadways. Now, they're not eating my McDonald's hamburger, right? We talked about that. But they are eating the things that come to eat my McDonald's hamburger, that come to eat those Doritos that I just threw out. So, guys, it could be something as simple as that. Now, we have 2 more shows. We have one at 2 o'clock and we have one at 3:30. We would love to see you guys back if you have the time. But that does it for this show. On behalf of myself and Megan and all of our feather crew, thank you so much. Have a good day. And I'll be down here taking questions, comments, stories, whatever you can throw at me.